You know, it is that time of year when there are other opportunities that tend to come with holiday decorating and other things we do at this time of year that can increase our risk of fire around the home or elsewhere if we're not careful. And so we've asked Michael McCleieer to come back from the fire prevention organization E.S.C.A.P.E, based here in Southwest Michigan. Michael, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Richard.
By the way, you are a well-trained firefighter yourself and an educator of firefighters, are you not?
I am.
So you didn't just show up on the show and say, here are these ideas. You've studied this.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm an instructor for the United States Fire Administration's National Fire Academy and have the honor and pleasure of actually working with the fire service across the country and really talking about best practices and learning myself. What are some of the challenges? What are some of the opportunities that we have to try and get fire safety messaging out to the mass numbers? And that's what we do all throughout the year.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that these messages are things that people do know, it's just that they need to be reminded, or are we constantly educating here?
I think it's both, Richard, and I'm finding because much of what we learn in fire safety is through the media, television especially, or even radio. So when we hear about something or see a movie, for example, that's what the public tends to perceive, that we have time to evacuate. Maybe they perceive that a half hour to 45 minutes to an hour is acceptable to evacuate a home during a fire, when in fact we may only have minutes. So what we try and do is we clear up the myths and misconceptions with our program, and we take our 38-foot fire safety trailer all around the state to be able to really show families, children and adults, what happens when a fire were to occur and the importance of stopping smoke from coming in their room, having two ways out, having an escape plan, and practicing this all throughout the year so that if the unthinkable occurs, everyone in the home, everyone in the family, and everyone in the community will stay safe.
And we'll talk more about that escape plan in a second here. I would imagine at this time of year, the concern is around the Christmas tree, right?
It is. United States Fire Departments respond to about 250 structure fires caused by Christmas trees every year, and half of them are caused by electrical problems. So as we're either late in putting the tree up, or if we've already put the tree up, make sure that wiring is intact. Make sure that there's no cracks or frays in the electrical wiring, and always make sure that listeners are purchasing electrical plugs, extension cords, and also holiday lighting that has the National Testing Laboratory Seal of Approval. Underwriters Laboratory would be one of the more popular ones, because there are things out there that some may buy on sale or kind of left over from last season, and they may be a risk for starting a fire. So we always need to think about that. And families are still using live Christmas trees. So there's some maintenance required for those live Christmas trees to make sure it's a safe and festive holiday season, make sure that they're properly watered and not near a heat source, not near a register and things like that. And never put the tree up near an exit or blocking an exit. A lot of times homes are very tight with furniture. We have to move things around. So the Christmas tree in many of the homes that I've visited actually goes up in front of a porch door or an exit way. And if there were a fire in the home, that exit way then is blocked and everybody can't get outside.
Well, I think it's probably easy to say, oh, that's the slider to the back deck. I'm not going to use that till spring. We'll put it there. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly. So we have to think about safety, anticipate what might happen, especially as we start having more family, friends over for the holiday season. Homes tend to get a little bit packed, and we need to make sure we still think safety all throughout the holiday season and throughout the year.
How do we know when a tree is too dry?
When the needles start falling off is probably the best indicator. Making sure that we're testing those needles, kind of looking at the tree. Is it still green? Are we starting to have those needles drop off? And in a lot of the homes nowadays, even if there's water in the base of the tree there where the tree is sitting, the tree may not absorb as much water the longer it's been cut. So a fresh tree, making sure that we cut our trees sooner or closer to Christmas as opposed to a month ago or 2 months ago, because the tree will actually treat that as a wound, and the tree will actually seal off and not absorb the water. So
should we cut it again?
It's not a bad idea. They are recommending cut it kind of at an angle so that it will reabsorb water. Sometimes it's not always easy to do because the tree might be very large, and the decorations, of course, are already on the trees. So just using some safety and making sure we never leave the lights on when we're using the holiday tree, when we're using the Christmas tree. Never leave them on when we go to bed or when we leave the home. And please never use candles, real candles, on a live Christmas tree. We're still finding that is an old-time tradition, and I've still had families that have said that they still use that tradition. Never a safe choice.
Boy, oh boy, wow. Michael McCleiere's here from E.S.C.A.P.E. We're talking about fire safety over the holidays, and in a moment we're going to talk about candles and space heaters, too, which are very common at this time of year. And I heard something about a practice we should get into with space heaters that a lot of us are not doing, and we'll talk about that coming up in just a moment. WBCK, we're here with Michael McCleieer from E.S.C.A.P.E. talking about fire safety at Christmas time, the stuff you should be doing in practice here now with Christmas trees up and other decorations and things. I got to tell you, one of my favorite things are these candles that don't have flame. They're great.
They are great, you bet. And a safer choice, actually, than an open flame candle, because you can use them all throughout the day. You can leave them on when you go to bed. The problem with open flame candles, pets especially are attracted to the candles, as are children. And there could be something where they come too close or in contact with that open flame candle, and it could catch clothing on fire. Also, that candle could be knocked over, and it could start a fire. So if families are using real candles, we recommend keeping a 1-foot circle of safety. Anything clear from that candle that could catch fire, could come in contact. But as you mentioned, safer choice. Those battery-operated candles, they have the same ambiance. Some of them have even an aroma like a real candle, and they flicker just like a real candle, and they're a much safer choice.
Yeah, and a lot of them have timers. They'll go on and off every day at the same time. It's kind of nice.
They do. A lot of families don't realize half of all candle fires start because the candle's too close to things that could catch fire. Mm-hmm. Candle fires peak this time of year because we're using them with a lot of the holiday decorations and just a lot of the holiday theme that's out there.
Well, it's pretty rattling to hear you say that some people are still putting candles right on Christmas trees.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So, again, that's some of the things that, we talk about in our programs, because if families were brought up with that way of celebrating the holidays, it's something that they don't necessarily think it's unsafe. And if nothing bad has ever happened, sometimes we re-engage in this not-so-safe behavior. And we don't want our families and listeners to become statistics and give them good information and make good choices.
This is another thing that I had not really had hammered into my head until recently, that when you're not using a space heater, you should unplug it.
Absolutely. A lot of the space heaters now have timers. They will turn on, they will turn off, but they are still a space heater. They never should be left on unattended. So when you leave the room, or even when everyone goes to bed for the evening, those space heaters should be turned off and unplugged. We have had issues where sometimes those timers malfunction and that space heater may come on, and somebody has maybe placed something on top of it. It could be an article of clothing. There could be some newspapers too close to it. So we always recommend keeping a 3-foot clear area from that space heater so that it doesn't come in contact with anything combustible, anything that could catch fire. Space heaters need space. And weather like we're having today, a perfect example of when we sometimes think about wanting that alternative heat to keep a room that's far away from the central furnace a little bit warmer. And I'm seeing the new space heater that pops up now on the infomercials that you just plug right into the wall and it heats the whole room.
Yes.
It's still a space heater. So it's
Unplug
still going
it.
to produce the fire. Exactly, when it's not being used.
Those things draw more electricity than the average TV or whatever we plug in, don't they?
They do, and those infrared heaters have been real popular with a lot of homes now and on the television and in the stores, but they're still a space heater, and even though the cabinet doesn't get warm, they put out an immense amount of heat. The infrared heat if it comes in contact with something, if it's shoved up against a couch or furniture, that could cause a problem. So think safety, use some good common sense. Everyone in the home will be safe. And along that same line, some of our older homes may not have the electrical capacity to handle a space heater. If breakers are being tripped, this is true even with holiday lighting. If the breakers are tripping, that's a problem that you want to get a licensed electrician to actually come out and check out what the problem is and, make sure everybody stays safe.
Yeah, so in other words, if the breaker trips, it's pulling more juice than is warranted for that setup.
It is. And one last point on this, never use extension cords, or if anyone is going to use an extension cord, make sure it's rated to handle that high wattage, that heavy load that the space heater is drawing. That's another concern, and never run those extension cords if they are going to be used underneath rugs, carpets, or things like that, because that poses a fire risk as well as a trip and fall hazard.
Mike McCleieer is with us from E.S.C.A.P.E. We're talking about fire safety. A few more minutes with Mike McCleieer at E.S.C.A.P.E. We should probably remind folks, you should be checking smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors and replacing them after a period of time, right?
Absolutely. Smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms have a life expectancy. We're recommending that they be replaced every 10 years. If you don't know the last time that smoke or carbon monoxide alarm was replaced, now's the time to do it. And this time of year, I talk about give the gift of safety. With our Michigan Safe program, Smoke Alarms for Everyone, this gives us the opportunity to partner with local fire departments. The city of Battle Creek's a perfect example. Battle Creek Fire Department will come out. They'll install free smoke alarms at no cost in homes where they're needed. So there's great programs, great opportunities, but this is the time of the year to think about safety all throughout the year. Give that gift of safety. It never stops giving, and it keeps everyone in the home and family safe.
Safe. Smoke alarms for everyone. That's a nice little program, and it seems like every time we've talked to you, somebody pops up and says they need them, don't they?
They do. They give us a call. They send us an email. We'll have that contact information here at the end. But it's very important because we don't often think about our alarms wear out. We need to think about, and the newer technology actually is much more sensitive, but less likely to provide those nuisance alarms, those false alarms when people are cooking or when they open the bathroom door and steam from the shower actually can set the older style alarms off. The newer alarms are much more resilient to those nuisance alarms.
You know, in my house, there's a lot of them, a lot more than there used to be in houses, and they're networked. So they plug in, but there's a battery backup, and there's several of them. So when the time comes to replace all those, do I need to buy all the same kind? Will they all maintain that networked setup they have?
That's a great question, Richard. What we find is those are hardwired alarms, and sometimes they require a licensed electrician because, unfortunately, not all the plug connectors are interchangeable. Yes, it's a good idea to replace them all at the same time, but if you're not able to figure that out, if you haven't got the ability to change those connectors, a licensed electrician will be able to get that taken care of. But those alarms as well, hardwired alarms, also need to be replaced every 10 years.
Yeah. And that, gives me peace of mind because, I'm not an electrician. I don't know that stuff. If somebody does that for me and they're a professional, then, you can sleep at night.
That's right. Exactly. There you go.
So 10 years, that's the benchmark. Now,
it is.
Nice thing is the carbon monoxide alarm that I had after 10 years just went off.
That's right, and a lot of the alarms now will do that. So they will, when they reach their life expectancy, they will actually alert the homeowner, the occupant, that it's time to replace that alarm.
I actually wrote a little note on the back of the new ones that says, 10 years expires, alarm sounds. So when it goes off,
perfect,
I'll remember why it's going off.
And a lot of times when we install those alarms, we write right on the alarm. So if the home is sold, the new homeowners know when that alarm was installed. Yeah,
that's a great idea. So, we had that story in the news last week about that fire at the hotel in Boyne. Boy, I cannot remember thinking significantly about a fire possibility when I've stayed in hotel. I mean, it's on the back of the door. You shut the door and there's the E.S.C.A.P.E thing, and I do look at that. But I can't say that I've looked at it for more than 10 or 15 seconds. This is an example of why we really need to look at that stuff.
That's right. We're talking about home fire safety, but now families may be traveling. They may be going and visiting other family members or just taking some vacation time. Fire safety still applies even when we're traveling, even when we're in a hotel or a motel. So if it's a high-rise building, locate those two ways out, locate the stairwells, follow that escape plan. Hotels across the country and motels have to follow and provide occupants and guests with a comprehensive plan. Knowing that if smoke is out in the hallway, it may not be safe to exit, maybe calling the front desk or talking it through. Talk with the front desk as you check in. Where are your exits? Is this a sprinklered building? Things like that. Where is everyone going to go and relocate if the fire alarm were to activate? That's an important point to know. So pre-planning, doing this before there's an incident, helps keep everybody safe.
Are hotels supposed to have sprinklers? Is it law?
It depends on the fire code. It depends on when the building was built. In the one up in Boyne Highlands, as I understand, a portion of that did not have sprinklers, and that may be because of local ordinance or at the time it was built. Anything new that's built will be required to have sprinklers.
Kind of hard to retrofit, though, in a lot of cases.
It is, and it gets very expensive, and especially if we have a lot of old historic significance, that can be a difficult thing. It's not impossible, though, and that's where we need to have homeowners and builders also help think about safety, because sprinklers, residential and commercial sprinklers, definitely knock that fire down and provide that life safety opportunity so that occupants can get out quickly and safely. We've seen that time and time again when they are present.
Mike has more of these details and a lot more on his website for E.S.C.A.P.E. And by the way, if you want them to visit from E.S.C.A.P.E. and maybe hold an informational session, they can do that along with Jake the Fire Dog, who was chiming in there a few minutes ago. How do we find your website?
Absolutely. It's www.escapeinc, ESCAPEINC.org. And if anyone needs our smoke alarm, if anyone needs to be connected with their local fire department, we've got a brand new toll-free number just for that cause, 844-978-4400. It's that simple.
844-978-4400. All right. We always appreciate it, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
Michael McCleieer with E.S.C.A.P.E. on WBCK. ESCAPEINC.org is that website.